I remember as kids, we used to sit around the radio and listen to what they called the progress reports, where how far they had advanced in Europe and how far they advanced in the Pacific. And we used to cheer and everything. It was just an amazing thing. The characters that came out of that were people like Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt and General George S. Patton. I remember that before the Battle of El Alamein in Europe, Winston Churchill had summoned General George Montgomery and suggested that he study the logistics of the battle. Montgomery doubted that he should become involved in such mundane technical matters. After all, he said, you know what they say, familiarity breeds contempt. Well, at that, Churchill looked at the notoriously pompous Montgomery and replied, I feel compelled to remind you, Monty, that without a degree of familiarity, we would not breed anything. After 30 years of stumbling toward the light, I was delighted to discover that I've at least cooked to the point of recognizing that Churchill's pungent insight is just as applicable to the process of spiritual transformation as it was to the Battle of El Alamein. A degree of familiarity with the logistics of conflict is essential to the birth of a peace that passes understanding. Let me say that again. A degree of familiarity with the logistics of conflict is essential to the birth of a peace that passes understanding. It is a degree of familiarity with the true cause of emotional turmoil. If that has not been established, recovery from cognitive confusion and the painful feelings it generates will be a long and arduous ordeal. Now, if we accept that premise as valid, it follows that our journey of liberation from emotional suffering would most effectively begin with the inquiry, what is, in fact, responsible for the ever-changing nature of this phenomenon we call our feelings? What's truly at the root, at the ground of it? Consider this from Charles Fillmore's teachings in Christian Healing. This is on page 62 if you want to look it up. Mental processes enter into all creation. Mind is the one and only creative power, and all attempts to account for creation from any other standpoint are futile. Our most important study, then, is our own consciousness. I say thank you, Papa Charlie, for our start. The Master Jesus invited us to put away our pity parties and our petulance and fearlessly embrace the truth that sets us free. Namely, that emotional suffering, also known as hell in the metaphysical domains, is a totally unnecessary, self-imposed experience that flows out of our tenacious insistence that isness unfailingly match our cherished models for how it should be. Anybody there besides me? Catch yourself doing that one. Well, Sherry Huber, who's an incredibly inspiring Buddhist nun for about 40 years now, she came to the end of it and she said, you know, after all my study, after going through all of the intricacies of the Buddhist psychology and all their methodologies, it's kind of humbling to finally realize that all of my problems, these things I call problems, all my difficulties as a human being, flowed out of my insistence that what is be different. Yeah. Take the deep breath. So, not my will, but thy will be done. Father, if this cup can be taken from me, even Jesus expressed a preference for a different kind of experience. If this cup can be taken from me, so be it, but not my will. Thy will be done. Wow. I don't know where you folks are at relative to this issue, but in my rare moments of authentic lucidity, I must confess a sobering awareness that I still often find myself wedded to and motivated by the fantasy that I can somehow create a genuine sense of contentment by creating just the right mix of earth circumstances. Get it all together moving in the same direction. In my dreams, there's that delicious moment when I'm surrounded by folks who always say exactly what I expect them to say, and then only when and how I want them to say it softly, adoringly, respectfully, unfailingly. Of course, in my dream world, all appointments are kept punctually. My cars always operate perfectly. All traffic signals are green for me. No one ever travels slower in front of me than I want to go. My coffee's always hot and the cream is half and half. Eggs are over easy, and home fries are soft, seasoned, and chock full of onions. 2-foot putts are never missed, and every drive finds the fairway. Ah. Well, there we go. Board meetings last 25 minutes. The church family is never disgruntled. Waste treatment systems never fail. Sex is always, well, I'm sure you get the picture. Dream on, pilgrim, I can hear my deeper wisdom say. Dream on. That's probably the kind of fanciful irrationality that inspired Willie the Shake, that's my little name for Shakespeare, to put Puck up in the laughing tree, observing, remember what Puck observed about humanity from the laughing tree? What fools these mortals be. What fools these mortals be. But always in the quiet times, another sense emerges, an uncommon sense of wide, spacious wisdom that reveals with undeniable clarity that there simply aren't enough sense baths or relationships in the universe to cleanse my heart of its longing for an experience that no amount of earth stuff can provide. The experience Buddha called the greatest gift, a moment of pure, uncompromised contentment. Well, you don't want a thing to change. Those moments, yes, that's the dance. Thus, the study of our own consciousness will eventually bring us out to a clear understanding of the birthplace of our emotional experience. We discover that we've been slowly dying of a spiritual malnourishment we simply didn't understand. This seems to be the inevitable outcome of all spiritual practice. The saving grace of finally knowing that peace and contentment are not products of grasping and clinging to our notions of how the ever-changing world of form should be, but rather the immediate outcome of grounding ourselves unconditionally in the sacred reality of what is actually present in each and every moment of our lives. God showing up in drag to create the dance we call our lives, including you, including each and every one of us. Remember that with fierce integrity, and you'll have no trouble with what Jesus called the greatest commandment in the law, loving God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul and all your strength, and loving each other with that same sacred intensity. Remember, it's always the Sabbath. Keep it holy. And everyone around you is a Buddha, except you. Learn from them. Thank you so much. God bless. Okay. All right.